Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 9th edition of Abstrakt Sales Institute. Today we're going to talk about sales knowledge. So in my presentations, you'll see they're going to kind of build on each other throughout the year. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was what kind of sales knowledge do we need overall from a customer standpoint, a product standpoint, and a technology standpoint. So some of this will pertain to those of you in the room. Some of this will pertain to those of you viewing this from the comfort of your office. And so really it's just a holistic presentation on different aspects of the sales process and what you need to become a better salesperson overall to help your company grow its sales. So what do salespeople need to know? They need to know. Anybody? And we'll make this interactive. I'll ask some questions today so people can jump in. What are different things you need to know?
You need to know what you're selling.
You need to know what you're selling. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that.
Marketing.
That's important. You need to know your market, right? Where you're selling, what you're selling. What else? What makes you different? What your differentiators are. Absolutely. Somebody else said something? Your competitors. Perfect. You know your competitors. Anything else?
Prospects.
Pardon?
Prospects.
Your prospects. Yeah, who you're trying to sell to. You got to know who you're trying to sell to. So one of the big things is everybody's probably heard the term FAB. FAB, everybody? FAB? That stands for?
Fabulous.
Fabulous, short for fabulous. Fabulous presentation. The F stands for? Features. A, advantages, and B, benefits. So what is the most important to the customer? What's that? All three, but really, to a degree, we don't know. We're trying to find that out. Typically, the benefit, okay? So I'll give an example that I love. When I go into car shop, which is not very often, but when I do, salespeople typically come up to me and they start telling me, oh, this car has 280 horsepower and it has 16 valves and da-da-da-da-da. You know what that means to me? Nothing, because I have no idea what that means. I haven't lifted the hood on a car in 25 years. I don't even know what's underneath there. I just hope that it works every time I turn the key. So because they don't ask me and try and find out what I'm looking for, they're kind of going down the wrong path. So what are all those things? 240 horsepower, 16 valves. What are those? Features. What's the advantage of having those features in a car? What would the advantage be? It's faster, right? But what's the benefit then to me? There's a benefit to me for that. There is, absolutely. Because all those things matter to me for one reason. What is it? What?
It starts point A to point B. So you don't look the back.
Gets you quicker from St. Charles to here.
So here's the answer. Nobody knows. You guys don't know because I've never told you, right? Because you didn't ask me. Nobody said, hey, John, why does that matter to you? Which as salespeople, that's what we want to do. We want to ask those questions. We want to find out, why do those features and advantages mean something to me? So does anybody want to guess or care why that matters to me? There's only one reason.
You look cool.
That would be why I want the body style to be nice. But why it has those other features and advantages is because I'm that guy who cuts you off on the exit when you're waiting in line for a mile of traffic. So I want to be fast enough to fly up and cut into somebody. And that matters to me. So all that stuff, all that being fast and 240 horsepower and 16 valves and it goes fast, right? Because I want it to go fast. So the new car was a sport model, so it would go even faster. But that's the benefit to me. Probably not the benefit to hopefully most of you in here, or I wouldn't get a spot to cut in front of it if it was. So that's why it's important that we ask those questions and find out. So the customers really, now that may be a stretch. Oh, we're on the wrong, there we go. Thank you, somebody's doing it for me. That may be a stretch. The customers look at us like we're a doctor, but to a degree, why do you go to a doctor? You have a problem, right? And so what does a doctor typically do? Does a doctor just come in and start and write you a prescription? No. Doctor comes in, starts what? Starts asking you questions. You know, starts asking you questions. And once they do all this and they write us that prescription, why do we feel good about that? Why would you go take some drugs just because some guy or gal wrote it on a piece of paper and told you go take it? Why would you do that?
Because they're the experts.
They're the experts. You trust them. You trust them because they have wisdom, they have knowledge, they have skills, and they've been doing it, they have experience, hopefully. But we trust them, and that's why we allow them to ask us these questions that are very personal, right? Lots of times could be very personal questions that the doctor asked us, and they have to find out what our problem is, and then they come up with a diagnosis for it, and then they write us a prescription. It's pretty similar to sales, right? If we do it right. We write a prescription. In fact, Jason wrote 3 of them yesterday, and I turned them in, and Cole wrote 1 today. And Mike wrote 1 yesterday, and here at the end of the month, we wrote a whole bunch of prescriptions for a solution to our customers' problems. So that, if you think about it in that regard, it kind of makes sense. But again, if you don't trust that doctor, you're probably going to go get a second opinion, right? You're going to go check with somebody else. If you truly trust them and believe in them, then you're going to go with what they recommend. You're going to take the prescription, go get it filled, and hopefully it's going to solve the problem that you have. So what are some sources of that knowledge and that wisdom? Where do we get that from? Where are some good places to get that?
School. Sales Academy.
Bingo. There's one. Sales Academy. Abstrakt Sales Academy is a great place to get that information, that knowledge. Where else?
Your peers?
Your peers, yeah. But if we're talking about just training, like formal training up here, what's some good way to get formal training?
School.
Well, trial and error is more on the next one, on the job training. But who said that? Somebody said
school.
School, right? Who's ever taken any sales classes? Few people in here, right? And I can tell you there was 1 sales class offered when I went to college. That was it. A great story. I hired this young lady, and she was an indexer for us. We did document imaging. And she was finishing up her degree at Mizzou. And she came in one day, or actually I kind of approached her because she was really good, always on time, did a great job. And I said, Lauren, what are you going to school for? She goes, I'm going to be a salesperson. I said, really? I go, love to talk to you about that. Maybe you could pursue that career with us. She said, great. So she came in and talked to me one day, and I go, well, tell me, what kind of classes have you taken at Mizzou for sales? Oh, we took a great one. I go, what's that? She goes, sales compensation. I said, sales compensation? That was your sales class you took? How to negotiate a salary for sales for something you have no idea how to do? She's like, yeah. I go, wow, all right, well, this should be a fun conversation. So she got a degree in sales and marketing from Mizzou and had 0 sales training there, which is a shame. But from my understanding, more and more universities are adding in more and more sales classes, similar to what we're doing now. So, I teach at St. Charles Community College, professional selling class. So they've actually went out 13 years ago and got me to start a program there. We were probably leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of the major universities at that time just because we had some sales classes at that junior college. So what are some other areas that we can get some kind of formal training?
Sandler.
What's that?
Like Sandler.
Yeah, Sandler. You can go to trade schools basically where you can take sales training on it. What about books? Books. I can tell you I've probably read over 100 sales books. I have, as we speak, on my office desk at home, probably 7 sales books and sales management books sitting there, still to be read. So I'm constantly, even though I've been doing this for 30 years, I've been teaching it for 13 years at a college, I still buy books on it all the time. Why would I do that? Why would you do that?
Current. To stay current.
Stay current, or there might be one thing in that book that I find that these guys would all be mad because I'll come back and go, hey guys, I got this great thing, let's try this. We're gonna make 200 dials today. But I may find one thing, one piece of information I think is really useful in my job. And if I do, that book was well worth the price that I paid for it, okay? So that's some more formal training that we can do. Then what outside of formal training is the other way to get sales experience?
On the job.
Yeah, you can cheat, it's on the board.
Oh, I didn't.
Right there. On-the-job training. So on-the-job training is arguably the best way to do it. I like to think a combination of the two, because even on-the-job training isn't going to give you everything. You're going to get what that job requires. You're going to get what that sales manager or what your peers think is the best way to do it. And it might be for that job, but if you're not outside seeking additional sales training, you're going to miss the boat on a lot of information. Like Jim said last week, everything that we're talking about in sales, we didn't create it. I didn't make this stuff up. It just popped me out of my head, and nobody here has ever heard any of this before. But it's a culmination of information we've gathered over the years, and there's so much information out there that we can never absorb it all. So if we do a combination of formal training, Abstrakt Sales Institute training, which is a great, quote, formal training way to do it, on-the-job experience, you can start to build a really good foundation to be a good salesperson. So from that on-the-job sales experience, what are some of the things that help you? Well, how does that help you? What do you get from the on-the-job sales experience? Somebody just throws you in and says, hey, dial the phone and call somebody. Is that good training? Does that help? I mean, probably eventually, because you're going to figure it out that you're going to get hung up on so many times and you try something new and get hung up. But there's people that will literally just keep doing the same thing over and over and get the same result, and I think they call that insanity, but people will do it. So the key is, when you have that on-the-job training, is to make sure you have the right mentors, the right managers, the right people teaching you that and go over it with you. What's one of the ways that we do that prior to even getting on the phones? Role playing, right? Role playing. So role playing is probably the closest you can get to the actual sales experience without really having it. Now, I know my guys and gals may argue a little bit, but we role play minimum of 3 days a week. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, we do our Michael Buffer challenges. And typically two different sales reps will battle it out in a role play on our pitch or our appointment setting script or something like that. So these guys, give it, Cole's probably, and Colin and Mike have probably given the pitch 1,000 times, more. So why do they need to role play? Why would Cole or Colin or Mike need to role play? I've got a reason why they role play.
Help train the other people.
Exactly. Because they help train the other people. So their experience, and because they've been doing it and they've been doing it successfully, I want them to do it to help train the other people too. So they get to see how these guys go about doing it. And you know what? Every time they do it a little bit different too. Just like every time they're talking to a customer, there's a little bit different spin on it. You know, it's not robotic, it's not memorized. We go through and we do it, you know, a little bit different. And that's because they have the experience of doing it so many times, they can put a different spin based on what the customer's looking for. Okay? So it's not always the same thing. By building up this experience through on-the-job training, we're basically able to build up the confidence that our customers will have in us. So we want them to be confident. We want them to think of us as the experts. Has anybody ever went into, and this is my pet peeve in life. You ever gone into like a Home Depot and you're looking for, you know, a piece of plumbing equipment or something, and you finally find the guy in the aisle and you're like, hey, I got this problem. You know, when I flush the toilet, the thing stays up and it won't close, the flap won't go down. Do you know which one of these is the right one? And he walks up to the box and he pulls it and he looks to the back and he starts reading the label. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I can do that.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. I didn't ask you for that. One of the reasons I've went to Home Depot and Lowe's thousands of times over the course of my adulthood. I've spent more money than I'd ever like to admit to in those two locations. And I've probably leaned more towards Home Depot than Lowe's. And there's a reason. And it really depends upon what I'm doing at the time, too. So most recently, well, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I built out my basement. And I was doing electrical. And I knew that much about electrical, except it hurts when you get shocked. So I went in and I went to the electrical department. I started talking to a guy about how to do the switches, and he literally went to the point where he pulled out a notepad, he diagrammed it out, red, black, white, you know, 3-way. Anybody ever wired a 3 or 4-way switch? It's not easy, okay? And you can do it like 4 different ways, which is crazy to me. So there's not one right way. But one way will burn your house down and your light will still flip on, but eventually it'll burn down. And the other way is right and it'll last. And you know, I wasn't about to get all the codes and inspections done, so I really didn't want it to burn down, so I wanted to do it the right way. So this particular guy, every time, and I got to know his schedule. Literally had his schedule at home, because when I had any kind of electrical questions, I went in and asked him. He became my private electrical consultant that I trusted to help me build out my basement. So that's the difference between, you know, and I literally spent thousands and thousands of dollars at Home Depot building out that basement that I probably would have spent at Lowe's if Lowe's had a guy that was that good. So it makes a big difference. By having that knowledge and that experience, and building those relationships with your customers, they're going to continue to spend more and more money with you because they trust you, they believe in you, they know that you're going to lead them in the right direction. What about if it's a really complex sale, though? What do you do then? Are we still on? We're still on the same page. Okay, no, we can go back. We're still on the same page. So what if it's a really complex sale? And you're selling some kind of, you know, heart transplant machine or you know, something in the medical device fields that allow you to do heart transplants, and you're selling to a doctor. How are you going to sell to that doctor that has 30 years experience, has done, you know, 100 heart transplants? How are you going to talk to them on a very complex and intricate sale?
Product knowledge.
Who said that? Yes, right. Product knowledge. So knowing the product. You're never going to know more than that heart surgeon about doing heart transplants. It's just not going to happen. Or you wouldn't be selling that, you'd be doing heart transplants. So having the product knowledge is the key. So we can't always know more than our customers, but we can know more about our product than our customers do, and then we can help them do their job better by using our service or our product and putting that in there. Right? Okay, Mike, so now we'll move on. Okay, we're on the same screen. So the next thing is get to know your customers. Get to know who your customers are. And what are some good ways to get to know your customers?
Communication.
Communication. All right, so we do a pitch here when we're selling Abstrakt's pipeline services. And typically on that first page, before we really get into our pitch, we start asking questions to the customer too. Hey, and not questions like, how long have you been in business? Why wouldn't I ask that?
You just know.
It's on their website. Why am I going to ask them a question I should know the answer to? Where are you guys located? How many locations do you have? Again, bad questions. Because that just means I didn't go to your website. I didn't do a little research. I didn't take time to get to know you prior to us having this talk. Now, gee, Ryan, you guys have 3 locations. That's awesome. You've been in business for 10 years. Are you guys looking to expand? That would be a pretty good question, right? Now that leads to a conversation. Oh yeah, we are. Matter of fact, da-da-da-da-da. How you guys plan on doing that? How was it when you moved into the other one? Or how'd you get into this role that you're in? What caused you to start this business? Why'd you do it? What do people like to do? Talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. So give them an opportunity to. Let them tell you about themselves. And they will. They will. So other ways to get to know your customers too is interacting through social media. Okay, it's a good way to go out. You can find out information about them. You could be posting stuff out there. They post stuff out. Other ways are surveys. So who do you know that does surveys? Abstrakt. We do surveys every quarter. And why do we do those surveys? We want feedback. We want to find out, are our customers happy? You know, what are the areas? One of the things, and one of the big reasons why we have Abstrakt Sales Institute is through those surveys. One of the questions we ask in those surveys is, would you like help with sales? Would you be interested in getting some coaching to help further your sales career? And a good majority of the folks that replied back on those surveys said, yeah, they'd be interested in that. And hence, Abstrakt Sales Institute was created. So by finding that information out and asking our customers what areas they thought would help them, we came up with a really cool, beneficial program that's going to help, not only you guys, but everybody out here that goes through these sales trainings. Another way is building customer profiles. Has anybody ever built a customer profile? It's really interesting. So I also happen to own a couple gyms. And when you own a business, you think you know everything about the business just because you're there all the time, and you just think you have a pulse on everything that's going on. But if you're like us here at Abstrakt and you collect a whole lot of data, you can look at that data and you can start to make some real facts about what things are, not assumptions, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people base things on assumptions. Well, I know my customers. I know exactly what it is. So we took all the data because everybody had to fill out a sheet before they could enroll with us, and it puts their gender and their age and where they lived and all this kind of stuff. Well, we thought that the number one group of people that were coming for our sports training were boys that were 9 to 12 years old. That was it. I mean, if you would ask any one of us, that's exactly who the most people are. And as it turns out, after we gathered all this data and built customer profiles, that it was actually girls between 12 and 14. None of us would have guessed that. It just didn't appear that way. So then we knew, hey, this is a market we should probably start doing more advertising and marketing to. We did the same thing from the personal training. Gathered all the data, found out exactly the demographics that we were catering to the most, where most of our clients were coming. And then on social media, guess what you can do? You can target those people, right? Because they'll ask you, who do you want to go after? Male, female, age groups, demographics, all these types of things you can start to market towards. But you can't do that if you don't have the information and you don't find that out. So those are things that help you learn more about your customers. Another thing you can do is focus groups. So we don't per se do focus groups here, but what we're trying to do more of, and we've got one of our clients who's coming in next week. We had one that came in a few weeks ago, or a month ago, and we're trying to get people from different industries, customers of ours, to come in and talk to us about, hey, why did you choose Abstrakt? What was your decision-making criteria? Hey, what are you looking for in this industry? And one of the best things we had was the client that came in sat down with the sales folks for around an hour, and I think if it was up to them, they would have spent 2 or 3, because they were just picking his brain, and he was just giving us all kinds of information about material handling business. And it was really interesting to, not only to the salesperson, but the customer really enjoyed it too. So we're trying to do more and more of that, where I consider that kind of a focus group where we're talking to people and saying, hey, why did you choose us? When you're doing calibration meetings, you can ask them those questions and get to know the customer better and better while you're talking to them. And the more you do that, the more endeared they become to Abstrakt, to you, and then they feel like you're the expert and they continue to want to do business with us. Some other things in regards to the data is Google Analytics. So that doesn't pertain as much to the people in this room as it does to the people that are watching this, of ways to go out and find out about their clients, people that are going to their websites. You can run Google Analytics on there and you can find out just about anything. You can find out how they're getting to you. Are they using their phones? Are they using tablets? Are they using PCs? Are they using Macs? What age group? Just about where they were when they logged in. There's so much information available through that to find out about your customers. So it's a great way to do it, and it's free. So you can't beat that. Know your company. So the next thing is, we know the customers, but do we know us? So when you come to an organization, hopefully you've looked on the website and did some stuff, but really start asking people, how was it formed? Who in here knows where the name Abstrakt came from? Just a few people. I didn't know until, I think, last week. So where did it come from, Mike?
Art gallery.
From an art gallery. I'm thinking abstract, marketing, we're abstract different and all that. It was an art gallery that the owners used to own. Came from that. Pretty cool, right? So those are things, and I found that out because I asked. I'm like, Scott, where'd the name come from? Where'd you guys come up with that name? And it was totally different than I thought. So knowing things about the company, what year was the company formed? What are some awards that we've won? And I don't expect everybody to know every single one, but I can tell you, on our slide deck is a section about that. And it's important for us because what we're trying to do is grow businesses, and it's important for us to show people how we've grown our own business using the exact same stuff that we're going to be doing for them. And if it works for us, it works for them, it's pretty good, right? So it's not to brag and to boast, but those are important things that we've been able to grow to be the fastest growing company in St. Louis. We made the Inc. 5000, number 768. So those are really good words that you should know about your company, because when somebody asks you, hey, tell me about you guys. How long you been in business? If you don't know the answer, you're not going to look real smart. Where do you guys rank, on the fastest growing companies? And surprisingly, people will ask you things like that. So the more you can know, the more information you can get it from our website, you can get it from talking to the people who have been here for a long time. There's always somebody out there that can help you with that. The other thing is, know your company's policies and procedures. Why would you need to know your company's policies and procedures from a customer standpoint? Not from your own, because you don't want to get fired and break some rule that Patrick set for us. Why do you need to know those for the customer?
Set expectations.
Set expectations. So when somebody says, hey, can I get a discount on that? My sales guys would say what? No. Good answer. They would say, absolutely. We have a program out there where we do da-da-da-da-da. And so we have a couple programs that allow clients to get discounts if they do certain things. Okay? If you don't know that and you just say no, you may not get that sale. But if you say, absolutely we do, and here's how it works, I can tell you exactly. Or you guys take credit card, do you take checks, do you take this? Oh, I don't know, I gotta go check. And you can only have so many, I don't know, I gotta go check. And there's nothing wrong with saying that to a customer every now and then, but if that's your answer always, are you gonna build a lot of trust for that customer when every time, if you're a partner sales manager and they ask you something about one of our policies or a procedure on how we do things, and you go, well, I'm not sure, let me check and I'll get back to you. How many times do they want to hear that? Before they're like, look, why don't you just go get the person who knows all this and make them my account manager? Because they obviously are the ones who can answer all my questions. So it's important. And customers will ask you a lot of things. What are your shipping policies? What are your pricing policies? What, how long do I have to pay? Da-da-da-da-da. And you need to know those areas to be a better informed salesperson and be a better source of knowledge for the client. So when you're out on a sales call, and I know here we do everything internally, but the people that are watching this go out in front of the customers and they're in a sales call and somebody starts asking them a question about some of the policies or procedures, or how long will it take for implementation, or all these different things. Somebody, for us, for implementation, well, how long does it take? How much of my time's involved? How many meetings do I have to go to? And if you don't know that, well, I got to get back to you on that. Those are things we should know, answers we should have. Know about the production in the facilities. One of the things Patrick does a great job of when you get hired here, he takes everybody completely through the first floor, the second floor, introduces them to everybody, talks about what it is. For other businesses that have production facilities and different areas, you really need to know that. One of the things that I did in my very first real sales job a long time ago was I wanted to get a job as a salesperson. And I thought easily I was just going to go out and get a job with Nike or Adidas or Reebok or somebody because I was an athlete and this is a no-brainer. I'm going to be selling tennis shoes. That didn't happen. So lo and behold, apparently nobody wanted to hire me because I didn't have any sales experience. So it's that funny thing, they don't want to hire you because you don't have experience, but how do you get experience? So a friend of mine said, hey, my brother owns this company, just got bought out, and they're looking for a courier. I said, what do they do? He said, microfilm or something. Now, I know that's a foreign word to a lot of you in this room, what microfilm is, but it was before imaging happened. Before you scan documents, you filmed them on a camera. I knew it existed in the library, but I never wanted to use it in college. So I needed a job. I go in, apply for the job. I'm in a suit and tie, and the guy's like, do you realize you're applying to be a courier? I said, I'm actually applying to be a sales rep. I said, I understand. He goes, but the job's for a courier. I said, I know that. I'm applying to be a sales rep. And so I will do the job for as long as you need me to do it, as long as I have the opportunity to prove myself and go into sales. And he's like, all right, well, I need a courier. And I guess I'll need a sales guy sometime, so you got the job. So I started doing it, and I made it my mission to learn everything I could about that company. I did all the deliveries. When I came back, I worked and I filmed paper. I went in the back and I learned how to process film, which, we had to be OSHA compliant. You had to use chemicals and all that kind of stuff back then. I learned how to splice the film together. So, if you messed up half a box, you didn't want to throw it all away and start filming it again. You could splice it, tape it together, how to load it into cartridges. I learned everything about that business. I learned how to fix the machines. So, lo and behold, sales job came open, and I got promoted up into sales. And when I started selling this stuff, I'd go out to talk to people, and their film would jam up. And let me see that. I grab it, take it apart, splice it, tape it together, get it all back, boom, put it in, and it works. I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. I'd fix their machines for them. I'd deliver boxes out to them. Did all this stuff. I'd go back and film stuff if I had to for them and help get it developed so we could get it out to them. And everybody loved that. I didn't know what I was doing. I just needed a job. And I wanted to get into sales. And by doing that, by learning everything that my company did, I was a way more successful salesperson. I can tell you, our 3 top salespeople here, every one of them started like I did. They started as a PSR, and they learned everything about Abstrakt, and then they got promoted up into sales. And now when they talk to somebody and say, hey, you know what? This is what we do. You know why I know that? Because that's what I used to do. And do you think I'm pretty good? Because that's the same kind of people they're calling for you. And it works, and it's great. And these guys have been very successful because of that. So I started implementing whenever I hired sales reps at my company, my imaging company, I made them do a minimum of 2 weeks in the back. They had to go in the back, they had to pull staples, they had to scan documents, they had to index documents, they had to do everything so that they could learn and they could be knowledgeable about it. So it's really important to know your company and know what your company does. I know we've got a second floor here that does a lot of advertising, our advertising agency and social media and all those kind of things. And so to know that we do that. So on a pitch, when we say, hey, somebody's saying I'm looking at doing SEO, great. Have you guys already chose a vendor? Guess what? Let me put you in touch with somebody because we do that here as well. If you don't know we do that, that sale goes to somebody else, not to us. So it's really important. Okay. Know your product. Again, extremely important. Know your product. Know what you're selling. Know how it works. Know how Salesforce, if you're a partner sales rep, how Salesforce works when you go in so you can use it efficiently. When, for our sales guys, the example I just used, the fact that they worked over on the other side, they know the product that we're selling. They have a lot easier time selling what we do because they understand it. I can tell you, Ryan, one of the guys who's been very successful, had a harder time because he didn't really know what we did as much. So he had to learn that. He had to learn our CRM, Salesforce, and then he also had to sell that. So the more you can learn about that, the better. Become an expert in it. That's what I did. I became an expert in microfilming. People would call me up when they had a problem, and I'd go out and fix it for them. So they didn't have to call their tech guy and have to pay him. I think maybe they were taking advantage of me, but that's okay. They continued to buy from me too. So it was a win-win for both of us. Know what the features and advantages and benefits. We talked about that on the very first slide. Know what those are for your products. Not just the features, but what's the benefit. So when we're talking to people about pipeline, we make X amount of calls. We set X amount of appointments. What does that matter? Who cares? We set 10 appointments, we set 100 appointments. What does that mean to the customer? What does that mean? If we can't get the value, the benefit of what those appointments mean, well, we're going to put you in front of 60 people that are going to have an opportunity to buy your product and service. And again, tell me how much you make when you do that. Okay, great. So if I can get you in front of this many and you said your close rate is this much, let's just do the math here. And wow, you're going to make 10 times the amount of money by using our service as you would without it. That's pretty compelling. That's a pretty good benefit to me as a business owner on why I would want to do this if I can make a lot more money than I have to spend for it, right? That's why you put your money in the bank. They say you put your money in the bank, I'm going to give you interest on it. They tell you how much interest, and you're like, that's a good deal, you put it in there. So it's the same way here. People buy products and services so they can get a benefit from them, whatever that benefit may be. In business, it's typically some kind of return on investment that they're looking for. The other thing is know your resellers. So if you do happen to have resellers, know them. Know what the channel looks like that they're selling through. So we have some manufacturers that our customers are that have resellers that sell their products. You want to know them. You want to know who their customers are. You want to know the quantities that they buy and the quantities that they order. Their distribution, promotion policies on how they distribute those products. So the more you can find out about them, the better. The more engaged you're going to be with them again. Okay, advertising. So one of the things we just talked about is direct sales, where we go out in front of somebody and have a meeting with them, but why advertising? Why would a company do any advertising? Top of mind. Okay, being aware. Why else?
Exposure.
What's that?
Exposure.
Exposure. Why else would companies advertise?
Solidify who you are in the market.
Yeah, kind of build brand awareness in the market. So the reason people advertise is to increase sales. For the most part, everything they're doing is to help increase those sales, but there's different ways they go about doing that. It's a lot of it, some companies just do retail advertising. They don't have salespeople or anything like that, so we're not really going to talk about that. But it's ways a marketing department could put together a campaign that they're trying to do where they're trying to promote a particular product. So maybe some of our customers are a Cisco rep, and they're really trying to promote Cisco's voice over IP. So they're going to do some national advertising on those particular products, and then they're going to tell the salespeople to go out, and this is what we want to talk about. We're going to do that. Anybody ever work in a restaurant as a waiter or server? Now, I've been told, I've never done it, that tonight we're pushing this dessert. Right? You're going to get a spiv, you're going to get whatever. And it may be that they were advertising that dessert through some national advertising, through some campaigns that they put out on billboards or TV or radio or something like that. So then they're going to have the salespeople, which are the waiters and waitresses, push that product as well. And it's the same way in every other business, that we may have a particular product that we're trying to go after. Okay? So you have national advertising, the large companies, where we've got clients that are resellers of certain national products, and they'll advertise nationally for them. We have franchise customers where the franchisor will advertise for the franchisee. Okay, and then there's also co-op advertising. So we have clients who actually get the OEM, the manufacturer, to help supplement and pay for part of our program. We'll actually supplement this because this is a way for them to get in and increase sales of their products and services. So they do co-op advertising with them. Trade advertising, so manufacturer will advertise in trade magazines. Different ways to get it out there. So there's all kinds of different advertising. Direct mail. We do direct mail, direct email through our advertising agency on the second floor. Direct mail is a great way to target a market very specifically. It's kind of expensive, but if you know exactly who you're trying to pinpoint it towards, it can be a great way to get something in front of them. And now, direct mail is almost, kind of resurfaced. So before, direct mail, everything came in your mailbox, right? You couldn't open your mailbox because there was so much mail in there. And now think about how much you get. Not nearly as much because everybody's advertising social media. So it's become a good way to get a direct spend going to the market that you want to go to. Direct emails. We're launching an email campaign right now that we're going out for our sales group. And it's going to be basically a drip campaign talking about the different areas that we do for managed services, for HVAC, for mortgage, and talking about those different services and how those can help benefit our customers by engaging pipeline. And then, of course, social media. So I know everybody here is very familiar with that, but there are some folks that maybe are watching this that don't have a ton of experience in social media, and those are areas that you can get the word out through Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and get your information out there. Now, Facebook's starting to charge a little bit more on it, but there's all kinds of medium out there where you can do it. There's social media management, reputation management services that are out there. We actually offer that service for clients. So you can have people monitoring all these different sites to find out if anybody's saying anything bad about you. And then you have the opportunity to go in and change that or kind of defend yourself and maybe say why that's not the case. But it's pretty cool with social media, the ways you can help build that brand awareness for the salespeople. So anything you can do outside of that really helps. And then just reasons why you spend that money. We talked about that. Develop sales lead, educate the customers, let them know where to buy it. I mean, seems kind of silly, but advertising can tell you where to go buy this stuff. Have you ever wanted to find something you needed to buy, I don't know, a widget, and you didn't know where to go to get it? And all of a sudden, an email pops in, or you see an advertisement about it, you're like, oh, cool, and then you go buy it from there. So I always tell everybody loves to buy, and they hate to be sold to. So by doing advertising, building that brand awareness, we're just helping people so they can buy, so they can love to buy. And be out there and be available when that time is right. So through these different advertising campaigns, whether they're drip campaigns through email, social media, direct mail advertising, it's all about putting yourself out there when the timing is right. So somebody doesn't need a computer today, right? You guys go out there, your computer's working fine, but if you go back out there and all of a sudden, your screen's blank, and you turn off and on your computer and it doesn't come back on, we need a computer really bad to do your job. Now all of a sudden, Lee's scrambling. The person he just shoved out of his door yesterday, he's searching for their card because they said, oh, we can have a computer here in 2 hours. So now all of a sudden, he's calling that person scrambling and he's wanting to buy something, right? Know your competition, your industry, and the economy. So one of the things that's really important we talked about earlier is knowing your competition. What's a good way to find out about your competition? Call them. That's what we used to do in the old days. And what do we do now?
Go to their website.
Go to the website. Bless you. The internet is phenomenal. You can get so much information. You should never have a problem finding out information about your competition. So go out there. Ask your customers, or when you're talking to somebody, too, if you're a salesperson and they're looking at somebody else, hey, can I ask who else you're looking at? They may or they may not tell you, but it's worth asking that question. And then go out and research them and find out, what do they do differently? What do they do better? What do they do worse? The more you know about the competition, because you will have people bring it up. Well, hey, how do you guys compare to XYZ company? I don't know. I don't know who they are. What about ABC company? I'm not real familiar with them. Wouldn't it be great if they said, how do you compare to XYZ company? Say, oh, great company. Fantastic company. They do this, da-da-da-da-da. We do this. And it's clear when I tell you the two things we do that we're much better. But if I didn't know the information about them and I didn't really know what they offered and what their competitive advantages were and what their downfalls were, I wouldn't be able to have that conversation. And then it's left up to the customer to make that determination. Based on what? What that salesperson tells them. Because what if that salesperson knows about you? And then they paint a little bit different picture. So they did their homework, they knew about you, and when they asked them, hey, what about your company? They rattled off why they were better and what they offered that was different and why there was more value in that. And you just lost a sale by not knowing. So the industry, how is the industry affected? Well, we just had this conversation. We were looking at different niches we could sell into last week. We were talking about this and went to lunch with the senior sales guys, and we were talking about commercial recycling. Used to be a great industry to sell into. Prices were really high for metal. Now, they're not. So it's not a real good market to sell into. It's not an area where those companies can make money because the prices are so low. So because of the industry, it's not a good industry for us to sell into right now. It probably will be again when that changes, but if I don't keep up with that and I don't keep up with the economy and know what's going on, I could waste a lot of time, right? If we just said, hey, that was a great industry, you know what? Everybody starts selling into that. And we spent a whole lot of time selling into it, don't get anywhere, and come to find out it's because there's no money to be made in that by those companies anymore, or at least not right now while the prices are down. So another thing with the economy, to pay attention to that, and kind of hitting on this because, again, we're talking about just globally what we need to do as salespeople to be more informed, is we do need to go out to external sources and keep up with what's going on. What happened in 2008? Anybody remember that? Everything crashed. Everything crashed. So if you're out trying to expand and you're trying to do this stuff, I'm going to hire on people, I'm going to do all this kind of stuff, and you weren't paying attention to the economy and you weren't tightening the purse strings and you weren't making changes, there's a good chance you're out of business. It's probably a good reason why a lot of our companies that we have as customers are in business right now. Because a lot of them, the companies they were with, probably downsized and they said, hey, you know what? I'm really good at computer systems, or I'm really good at fixing, HVAC systems. I'm really good at mortgage. I'm going to go out and do it on my own. And they did, and they weathered it, the economy, and now they're thriving because they're able to go through it. So that plays a big factor, and the more you pay attention to that and know that when you're talking to your customers, how does that affect them? And how does that affect their products and services that they sell? And you can have an intelligent conversation with them. Technology and sales. So how important is that? PCs. Everybody knows PCs, right? I've made the mistake more times than I would like to that I hired somebody who couldn't type. What's typing have to do with sales? A lot now. Not a lot 20 years ago, but a lot now. With email, with spreadsheets, with all these things that have to be done from a sales environment. When you hire somebody who's not proficient at that, their productivity goes down. Something to look at. Something to look at, and it's important. I hired a gal one time, and I just assumed she knew how to do a basic spreadsheet. And she was a front desk receptionist gal, but I was moving her in some other things because she was pretty good. Had no idea. I can't tell you how many hours teaching her Excel. I mean, just so many hours. It would have been better to bring somebody else in that knew how to do it and would have saved me tons of time. So those are important things to know from technology. CRM. We use Salesforce. Other people, a lot of our managed service providers use Autotask or ConnectWise. Different ways to track either their sales, track their sales process, track their how they send out their technicians, and the financial ends of that. So that technology is really streamlined. I mean, think about here at Abstrakt, what we'd be doing if we didn't have Salesforce. Nearly impossible to track all the metrics and have the productivity that we have if we didn't have a system like that. Calendar management. One of the big things is managing your time as a salesperson as well. So who here has their calendar planned out every day, bucketed out in times? I bet you every manager in here raises their hand. Or they should. Because that's something that we've worked on a lot this year, is managing our calendars and managing our time. So as a salesperson, you need to manage your time. You only have so many hours in the day to sell, to do research, to do follow-ups, to write emails. And if you just come in blindly and just sit down and start working, there's a chance you're going to miss out on a lot of things that you probably should have done. So blocking out your calendar and managing your time is critical to be an effective salesperson. And everybody in here and everybody watching this should manage their calendars literally almost to the minute and have everything blocked out and know exactly what they're going to do and try and stay on those tasks. Or your day slips away from you because you just do one thing and somebody jumps in and this meeting ran 15 or 20 minutes long, which threw off this meeting, and all of a sudden the day's gone and you get everything done. So you got to stick to it. Another thing that really everybody knows about iPods and everything, but from a standpoint of training, I mean, who ever thought, like, I'm going to take my iPod to a meeting so I can watch this Abstrakt Sales Institute presentation while I'm sitting in the lobby waiting? I was fortunate enough to sneak away and go to a basketball game last night with my son, and I'm like, I got to get ready for this presentation. I got to do email. I've got to do all this stuff. And I'm sitting there at every timeout, every whistle, doing email on my phone. And how awesome is that? So we can get so much more accomplished by doing those things and taking advantage of them with the technology that we have. With order processing, orders used to take forever in a lot of instances. Now you can literally take orders and check orders right over your phone. When I worked at Marcone, I could actually go to my phone in front of a client and I could look at the inventory that we had of all of our products and tell them whether or not it was there and how long it would take to ship and get it to them right then. If they wanted it, I could place the order and it would ship that day, depending upon what time it was. And we had 4 warehouses across the country, and that was pretty cool. Oh, you need, this certain kind of part for washer. Let me look it up. Boom, there it is. Yep, I've got it in Louisville. Ship. It's going to go out this afternoon, FedEx. You guys have it tomorrow morning. So that technology has allowed companies to process a lot faster. And global technology provides service to companies as well. So we have just a couple minutes here, I think. And talking about how the internet and the web are able to speed up the processes that we do. I'm going to jump past that. Everybody's familiar with that. But another term that you may or may not have heard of is netiquette. So etiquette over the web. Has anybody ever heard that term? Nobody? It's really important. And it pertains a lot to emails. So has anybody ever sent an email and then like, God, I shouldn't have sent that email. Or they send an email and they're really mad and they write it. Or they sent it and they didn't check the spelling on it. I will never forget. I sent an email to a lady about probably 12, 13 years ago, and she sent it back and corrected all my grammar and spelling. I was so embarrassed. And she's like, John, I can't believe you sent me an email like that. I used to be a teacher, and this is completely unacceptable. Swear to God. Ever since then, I will not send an email that I'm not checking. I got spell check on, but I'm reading them and making sure. Well, that had a lasting impression on me, but it's true. We get in the habit of just sending them out so quickly, and it can make us look really bad when we send emails where we do spell things wrong and the grammar is not good. So we want to look professional in everything we do. We want to send those out and look really good. Cell phones. Most people know what to do with a cell phone. I can tell you a story where I almost murdered one of my sales technicians. It at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada, speaking in front of about 10 people at the Air Force Base, very high-ranking people, and my sales engineer's talking about some Cisco routers and switches that we had, and his phone rings. While he's literally at a podium in front of about 10 people, and so what's he do? Oh yeah, he answers it. Pulls it out and answers it, and starts having a conversation. And I had to stop myself from jumping up on the stage and grabbing him off, but we got done, and I said, what are you thinking? You just, well, my phone was ringing. I had to answer it. Simple things like that, horrible. If you're going to a meeting, turn your phone off. Turn your ringer off. It's just common courtesy to do things like that. If you're in a meeting with customers, make sure you turn your phone off before you do that, so it doesn't ring and doesn't disrupt it. Speaker phones. One of the things, I know Julie's on the phone right here, she's had multiple problems, not necessarily with speakerphone, with her voice over IP. So I believe that may have even cost her some deals because the clients can't really hear her that well. Make sure, if you're using a speakerphone, make sure it's a good one. Make sure that people can hear you. You've tested it. There's nothing worse than being on a phone conversation and you can't hear the people on the other end. So really important to do that. And then video conferencing as well. If you're going to do video conferencing, make sure you have good cameras. Make sure it's set up properly. And if you're going to do that, again, as a salesperson, make sure you're professional. If your industry calls to be dressed professional, be that way. Because now you're basically having a face-to-face meeting with that person doing that. So that is the end of it. I think we got it in time, or we went over. We went over? Darn. Sorry, Cole. All right, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it.